What is a fraction? A fraction can be termed as a part of a whole. Just have a look at any of the mark sheet that your teacher gives you after checking your papers in exams. Marks on these papers read like 45 by 50, 40 by 50, and so on. These marks are an example of fractions. 50 is the number that represents total marks that can be had in the exam, and 45 is what you got out of the whole, which is 50 in this case. Let's understand this with the help of another example. Suppose your friend brings a pizza and wants to share it with you. As of now, this pizza is a whole, which means he has not divided into parts. He cuts it into two equal halves and offers you one. While doing so, he actually offered you a fraction of the pizza. And what fraction is it? After slicing the pizza, in total there were two parts, out of which one part was given. So it was 1 out of 2 parts, that is 1 by 2. If the pizza was cut in 4 equal parts and one part was given, it would be 1 by 4. If 3 parts were given, then it would be 3 by 4. So how do we determine fractions? We begin with a whole and then divide it into, let's say, 4 equal parts. What will be the fraction of one shaded part? To begin with, we count the total parts, which are 4 in this case. The fractions are represented by placing numbers above and below a line. We write the number of total parts below the line, which is 4 in this case. And we write the number of shaded parts above the line, which is 1 in this case. So the fraction that we get here is 1 by 4. An important thing to remember while talking about fractions is the parts that make these fractions should all be equal. Fractions can be derived from a figure that is divided in equal parts, not unequal parts. Fractions on number line. Let's find the fraction 3 by 4 on the number line. 3 by 4 is greater than 0 and smaller than 1. So it must be lying somewhere between 0 and 1. So for us, the area of action will be between 0 and 1, which is 1 whole. Looking at the denominator of 3 by 4, we can see that the whole has been split into 4 equal parts. So we need to split the whole of 0 to 1 into 4 equal parts so that each of the part represents 1/4. Now we need to look at the numerator to see how many parts do we have there. It has 3. We count from 0 towards 1. 1 by 4, 2 by 4 and 3 by 4. So we have successfully marked 3 by 4 on the number line. So what we have to do is divide the whole into numbers of equal fractions as per denominator and then count our way to the fraction indicated in the numerator. Types of fractions. Fractions have been broadly categorized into 3 types: proper fractions, improper fractions, and mixed fractions. Let's begin with proper fractions. A fraction in which numerator is smaller than denominator is known as proper fraction. So the fractions like 1 by 2, 3 by 4, 5 by 7 and 4 by 9 are all proper fractions as their numerators are smaller than denominators. Moving on to improper fractions. Fractions in which numerator is bigger than denominator is known as improper fraction. So the fractions 4 by 3, 7 by 5, 9 by 7 and 5 by 4 are all improper fractions as their numerators are bigger than the denominators. Let's move on to mixed fractions now. As the name suggests, it has a mix of two components. These two components are whole number and fraction. Have you ever been in a situation where you wanted to have 1.5 pizza? That is, whole of first pizza and half or 1 by 2 of the second pizza. Here, you have demanded the pizza in mixed fractions, which is 1, 1 by 2. Here 1 is a whole number and 1 by 2 is fraction. Similarly, fractions like 2, 3 by 4, 3, 2 by 7, 5, 1 by 2 are all mixed fractions. Now let's discuss how to convert one type of fraction into the other. Let's take up a mixed fraction to convert. 5, 3 by 4. As a first step, the denominator will be multiplied with the whole, then the resultant number will be added to the numerator. This will give us a new numerator and the denominator will remain unchanged. As in this case, the numerator 4 multiplied by the whole 5 is 20. And then the numerator 3 is added to 20, which gives us 23 as the new numerator. Retaining the original denominator 4 gives us the new fraction as 23 by 4. So this was the conversion from mixed fraction to improper fraction. Now let's convert this improper fraction back to mixed fraction. How do we do that? We will simply use division. Divide 23 by 4. 4 multiplied by 5 is 20. 23 minus 20 gives us the remainder 3. Now we have three figures with us: quotient, remainder and divisor. We need to arrange these to get the mixed fraction. For that, remember a simple formula Q into RD. That is, quotient will take place of whole, remainder will be the numerator and divisor will be the denominator. So, after dividing 23 by 4, we place the quotient, remainder and divisor as per the formula and get the mixed fraction as 5, 3 by 4. Now let's discuss equivalent fractions. To understand equivalent fractions, let's take the help of fraction strips. This is a whole one. Now let's divide this whole into parts. These are 2 halves of the whole. Here, the whole is in 4 parts. This is in 6 parts. This is in 8 parts. And this one is in 10 parts. Now let's color up 1 half of all the strips. This is 1 part out of 2. And this is 2 parts out of 4. This is 3 parts out of 6. This is 4 parts out of 8. And this one is 5 parts out of 10. Though these fractions look different, but visual representation helps us to establish that all these are same or equivalent fractions. So we can see with the help of fraction strip that 1 by 2 is equal to 2 by 4, 3 by 6, 4 by 8 and 5 by 10. Hence, these are equivalent fractions. How do we make equivalent fractions from a given fraction? Let's take 1 by 3 as an example and make its equivalent fractions. All we need to do is multiply numerator and denominator by the same number. If we multiply it with 3, we will get 3 by 9. which is equivalent of 1 by 3. So, by multiplying numerator and denominator by the same number, we can have countless equivalent fractions of a given fraction. Now let's understand what do we mean by simplest form of a fraction. Let's take 4 by 8 to work on this. Do you think the numerator and denominator of this fraction can be divided further? Of course it can be. We can divide both the numbers by 4 and get 1 by 2. So 1 by 2 is the simplest form of 4 by 8. In the same way, we can solve 12 by 18 by dividing numerator and denominator by 6 to get 2 by 3. Can 2 by 3 be divided further with a common number? No. So 2 by 3 is the simplest form of 12 by 18. So to get the simplest form of fraction, we need to divide or keep dividing the numerator and denominator of the fraction with the same number till the time they cannot be divided further. Now it's time to discuss like and unlike fractions. To understand this, we need to look at the denominators of a set of fractions. 1 by 4, 3 by 4, 7 by 4, 13 by 4. All these are like fractions as their denominators are the same. Like fractions are the fractions which have the same denominators. In case of unlike fractions, the denominators are not the same. 1 by 3, 4 by 9, 3 by 4, 2 by 7. All these are unlike fractions. As we can see, they have different denominators. So, unlike fractions are the fractions which have different denominators. The knowledge of like and unlike fractions is very important if we need to compare two fractions. Because for comparing fractions, it is necessary for the fractions to have the same denominator, or in other words, they should be like fractions. If we have to tell which fraction is bigger, 2 by 7 or 5 by 7, it's easier to figure out. As the denominators are same, all we have to do is look at the numerator and see which number is bigger. In this case, 5 is bigger than 2. So 5 by 7 is bigger than 2 by 7. Had the fractions been 2 by 7 and 5 by 9, we could not have made the statement that 5 is bigger than 2, so 5 by 9 is bigger than 2 by 7. As these are unlike fractions, that cannot be the case. So for comparing, adding or subtracting the fractions, it is necessary that the fractions are like. Addition, subtraction and comparing of fractions. To begin with, let's take up like fractions and go for addition, subtraction and comparing of fractions. Let's take two fractions, 2 by 5 and 4 by 5, and add. We can see that these are like fractions as both have same denominator. So we simply need to add 2 and 4, which is 6, and the denominator remains the same. So we get 6 by 5 as the answer. Similarly, if we have to subtract 3 by 7 from 9 by 7, we can subtract 3 from 9, which gives us 6, and we keep the denominator same. So we get the answer 6 by 7. Now if we have to compare 4 by 9 and 8 by 9, we can easily see that 8 is greater than 4. So 8 by 9 is greater than 4 by 9. As discussed earlier, we will consider only the numerator for comparison as the denominators are same. So this was about adding, subtracting and comparing like fractions. But how do we carry out these functions when we have unlike fractions? Let's see how we will add the fractions 4 by 5 and 5 by 6. As in case of like fractions, we cannot simply add the numerators as the denominators are different this time. So we need to make the denominators same before carrying out the addition. For that, we need a common factor. Hence, we'll need to find out the LCM of the denominators. The LCM of 5 and 6 turns out to be 30. It means that the denominator in this case has to be 30. Now, how do we make the denominators 30 for both the fractions? As we can see in the first fraction, multiplying the denominator 5 with 6 gives us 30. And in the second fraction, multiplying the denominator 6 with 5 gives us 30. But please remember, if we are multiplying the denominator by 6 in first fraction, then the numerator will also be multiplied by 6. So multiplying 4 by 6 gives us 24. So the first fraction becomes 24 by 30. In the similar fashion, in the second fraction, as we have multiplied the denominator by 5, we need to also multiply the numerator by 5. Doing so, we get the value of this numerator as 25 and the fraction becomes 25 by 30. Now we have both the fractions with same denominators. So now we can add them easily. We carry the denominator as 30 and add the numerators 24 and 25, which gives us 49. So the resultant fraction is 49 by 30. The same process needs to be followed in case of subtracting the fractions. Make the denominators same, then subtract the numerators and carry the new denominator. In case of comparison also, make the denominators same and then see which fraction has the bigger numerator. That fraction will be the bigger fraction.